On this episode of the Highlights Only podcast, I had an opportunity to sit down with Corey Fells, photographer, artist, and the creator of the 100 Women Project, which was covered by BBC and other major news outlets. He's currently finishing up his latest project called Men of Color Get Real About Mental Health, which should debut sometime this summer. But without further ado, the episode starts now.
Oh, can I cuss?
Yeah, dude, curse. I don't care.
Okay.
On one of my podcasts, I asked my guest, could I curse? So it's all good. He was like, dude, this is your thing. I was like, all right,
I don't, because I've done quite. I did some. I did few. I did some here in Milwaukee at River West Radio, and they don't really like cursing, so I have to like kind of like orient my jokes or at least be like more comfortable in that way. Because on a regular day basis, the way I talk, I get a little vulgar, but that's only because at that point in time I feel like immediate frustration, and that cursing allows me to be able to just settle myself.
Yeah, dude, there's nothing wrong with that. I feel you.
Yeah. And I get super excited.
Oh, but you were saying something about being a creative man. I want you to continue that.
Thought. I'm literally in my head. I literally, funny, ironically enough, I was just on Twitter, and a lot of times I have these core set of friends that are amazing. Taylor Pate and my good friend Von Alexander. They kind of like monitor my social media because I'm not the best at kind of navigating through it, especially when it comes to Twitter. And I literally just say random things. One time I was drunk this past weekend, and my trend or my threaded tweets started off as, I'm going to be tipsy as hell tonight. Next following tweet, Obama did what he could. Next following tweet, I love hash browns and I want to make some tonight. Next following tweet after that was like something just off the wall. I think I was just saying like, I think I was saying something about Snoop Dogg. Ironically enough, the next day Snoop Dogg did that thing, but Snoop Dogg, and then that was that. People were asking me like, why are you talking so random? Or when I want to talk about relationships, sometimes I just don't want to talk to my friends about it. I just want to put an idea out there and just let it like sit out there. But it's this fact of me being in a relationship as a creative and being in this space of uncertainty so often. There's this like threshold or like this weird space that you're in when you are starting to realize you might be good, or you're starting to be more comfortable with yourself. It's that uncertainty of like money, or the uncertainty of being recognized. And there's always this like, self-centered idea of like, oh, well, I'm doing all these amazing things. Why aren't people like recognizing me in my own community, small community that I'm like actually know these people? But there's people that are in other communities that don't know me, have never met me, but they DM me or they talk to me about like the creative world and things like that. You're very much so in your own head 99% of the time. Yeah, you're always double thinking or triple thinking about certain things and concepts and ideas, and you're just really waiting for a push. I'm not so much waiting for a push now. It is much more now like, how can I get these ideas out as quickly as possible? Beforehand, it was, I'm too afraid to get these ideas out because I want to know what people will think about it. I can give two shits now. I just want to put the stuff out. I know it's going to be dope. I just want to make sure I do it in a certain time frame as a way it can set me up for other things in the future.
Yeah. Do you have like a constant feedback loop with your core group of friends with anything that you do create?
No, I never talk about anything I do that I create. Not even like when I do like interviews or publications hit me up, or I'm on the news or whatever the case may be. I don't talk about my friends because I want to get out of that space. That's what my friends are there for me to be able to kind of get that nice release. Because outside of them, my regular day job is about art. When I am on my phone and I'm like answering DMs I'm answering DMs 10 times out of 10, it's about somebody that wants photos or that wants to get help on photos or want to get help on creative direction outside of photography, because I also do film and I do those other ideas and all these other things. And it's a cool release to be able to sit down with my core group of friends and we just talk about random things. We talk about everything but art. I have one person that do talk about art, and she's a good friend of mine. She's not here in Milwaukee, but she's out in LA and she does amazing things. But I need an asshole to tell me about my work. I don't need somebody that tells me all the time like, "Oh, you're good," or "It's really cool concept," and give me very generic answers. I need someone that knows like art very well, and I respect their opinion, I respect their taste, and we go from there. It's not only her, but she's the one I go to most often. I have some other good friends that aren't as available that I do go to though. So yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I feel like I teeter in that space most of the time where it's just like I create something and it's like I personally know it's like, okay, like I fuck
Fire.
with this. Like I know this
Fire.
is fire.
Yeah.
But then it's just in your head. You're just kind of thinking like, God damn, like this shit might not be fire to everybody else. You know? And that shit kind of, I mean, it just kind of like throws you off like a little bit, especially in the space of like being a creative. I don't call myself a creative because like only thing I do is like this podcast now. Before like making music and drawing and like all that other shit, I would probably deem myself more of a creator then compared to like now.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting for me and like this podcast. I have like my fiance. I'm just like, hey, like I'll like edit it like with the speakers going,
Yeah.
and not just like in my headphones, because she'll tell me like, hey, like you should have shut the fuck up right there. Like, you should have stopped talking right there. You should have just let that person like go. And I get that. You have like those one or two people that'll always keep it real with you.
Yeah.
Instead of like those yes men where they're kind of like, oh yeah, that's dope, man. Put it out.
You know what? Let's speak on that because I've actually asked myself multiple times when it comes to dating, what type of like will be the best type of person to be like coupled with? When you're a creative, do you want another creative that you can bounce ideas off of? But then I go to that Wale verse where he uses a sample from Seinfeld where it's like magician dating another magician.
Yeah.
You can never really impress one another. Where does that like relationship really coincide? Or I was like, hey, I would want to date someone that's like more of like a total opposite of me. Does not think creative, but thinks so logical. How do you and your fiance?
For me, it's kind of like a weird thing because my fiance is not like a creative, but she is hands down possibly one of the most creative people I've ever met in my entire life when it comes to like actually like creating like physical things, number one, and like art, like hands down. Like she is amazing at it. Like she can draw. I'm not saying this because she's my fiance, but it's just like she can draw like no other. She can create anything on Photoshop you need done within the next like hour, 2 hours, and have it knocked out. But it's like she wants to go into the medical field, and that's like her dream. That's what she wants to do with her life.
You better get the money, brother.
Yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead, man.
So it's just like I think it's not having someone that's the complete opposite of you, but
Yeah.
someone that has some pieces where you guys match together.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that's key.
Okay.
Because then you still get that, like, this isn't my space, so it's not like you're trying to impress me with all these things.
Yeah.
They can be impressed, but they can also give you that constant feedback on what you can improve on or what you can do differently.
Yeah. No. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I want when it comes to that type of aspect, and that kind of worries me too. Because then back burner, my family at first was like very weird, not weird, but they didn't really understand my photography. It was like, okay, so you take photos for seniors, and then you do graduation. No, I don't do that. So what do you take photos of? Like, how are you making money? I'm like, I just want to do it because I feel like I want to do it. And I was like, all right, but you're going to school to, learn about economics and do other stuff. Like, you're going to have a degree that pays. I'm like, yeah, of course. And for the longest, I've tried to deny, like, photography. I'm like, no, it's just a hobby. I don't want to, do this for the rest of my life. I want to do something that makes me money. And if you can ask most of my high school, 10 times out of 10, everyone thought I was be an engineer. I was the only kid that would design robots in my free time, and I would carry around that same robot around the whole entire school. I got paid by the Milwaukee School of Engineering $1,500 every single year just to design robots and teach it to my classmates. I was started so many different organizations inside my school when it came around like math and science, but it just really didn't fulfill like that creative niche I wanted to do. My teachers told me I was really good at outsourcing or being able to bring people together to be able to create something under like an idea of whatever I wanted to do. And then I should kind of follow that path. That engineering may be just something I'm kind of interested for now, but it's putting people in the same room and getting them to do stuff that they all said like, hey, that's your real passion. And then from there, just kind of like, I just didn't want to be creative because I was always afraid of like, dang, they don't make no money. I don't want to be out here starving. I can't. I got to put some bread on the table. And then it got to a point where it's like I can't do anything about this. It gives me anxiety for the nights where I can't create or when I can't figure out what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like math, couldn't do it. I'm pretty good at math. Couldn't be an accountant all day because I hate sitting at a cubicle all damn day.
Yeah.
And I tried to make myself into a salesperson. I worked at many jobs. I worked at Northwestern Mutual as an investment intern. I worked at Manpower where it came to like sales and things like that, and just a lot. But I was just extremely dissatisfied in all those careers. I got paid really well, but all those careers didn't really amount to anything for me.
I think for not just for me, but just like in general, this generation, we are so focused on like money, like getting the money like right away as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And even when we get that money, it's also not enough money. We're still not making enough. One thing that I saw the other day was that's super interesting was you're not early. You're damn it. Something about like you're not there yet. You're just like early in the process, which I feel like is key for like people in like our age demographic to kind of like realize it's like we're not there yet. Like we're still like my CMO was talking today and he was like early in my career, X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, this man's been doing this for like 30 years. You know what I mean? Then he has like, okay, yeah, later. He's definitely in like the part of his career where like, you know, you're making a little bit more money. It's just later in his career compared to us. And I think you finding like what you want to do now, early in your career, as people may say, is magical. Because some people don't find that thing until later.
Yeah.
I had a guy, Todd Schuster, I want to say his name was. He's an artist. And I think he's in his late 50s. He just started making art like 5-10 years ago. And he's just like, shit, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. And it's just like, now he's early in his career creating art, but he left his actually an engineering job. He was an architect when he was late in his career to do something completely different.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to know something? My biggest fear when I was younger was being that old dude that took up space.
Really?
In any type of demographic. So I didn't want to be that old man in his like 60s, still being a doctor, or I also had dreams of being an NBA. I didn't want to do what Vince Carter's doing right now and be in my mid 40s taking up space from someone young. I wanted to be past that. I wanted to be around peers that were not only my peers as far as working level, but also my age demographic. So when it came to like even me creating now, I don't want to still be doing the same thing that I was doing like X amount of years ago. I don't want to be that 60 or 50-year-old guy taking senior year photos of like teenagers. It would feel as if like I'm not moving anywhere laterally in my life. If it's a side thing and I'm doing it for like my nieces and nephews or grandchildren or children, that's fine. But I'm not finna do this for no like random kid that hits me up on Facebook and I'm looking to get extra $400 or $500. That's not a shot to anybody. That's just never something I want to do. So even with this, I have systematic like time restraints for myself, and it's kind of purposeful because I don't think everyone needs that. I don't think anybody that creates needs like real time restraints on their own career because things happen. You never know what happens. Like you can be in this stretch of when you're in this position for X amount of time, and it just may not be your time to be able to step up to the next level. But the great thing about that is when you're independent, is really no one can really hold you to any type of like position. It's based off of how much you're willing to hustle.
Yep.
And so when it comes to like my personal independent artistic pursuits, I'm making sure that within the next year and a half here in Milwaukee, I'm going to have the hugest impact that any visual artist has ever had in the city of Milwaukee or the state of Wisconsin. And hopefully also that spreads out to the Midwestern regions too. But I'm giving myself a year and a half because I want to have the best impeccable resume when I go out to New York, because that's where hopefully, if God willing, allows me to go, New York or Detroit. and I want to work for an American marketing agency. I want to be able to eventually become a creative director of some sorts. And then while I'm doing that for a marketing agency, I want to also be a producer for films, and or work in films or TV in some type of like capacity. But honestly, when I get old, I'm telling myself by the time I get 65, I want to be the old dude that listens to music and shop at grocery stores like Whole Food from the beginning of the day until the end of the day, just chilling, eating all the samples I want, waiting till my kids or whatever hits me up. See, if you don't see me at a grocery store, your local grocery store, at between the ages of 65 to 80, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing in this world.
I think what's cool about what you just said was you have a timeline. Number one, you have a timeline, and you're independent on your timeline. So you're holding yourself accountable to reaching those goals. And one thing, just talking about like your career aspirations, which are huge career aspirations, but they're attainable by pretty much doing that work that you just outlined, what you want to accomplish within that year and a half. And what I've noticed just from talking to so many people, like on this, not so many people, but talking to people on this podcast and just like talking to people in general, is that it's so much easier to do it yourself. You don't have to go work for someone right now to build your resume. All you need is your camera and inspiration, and you can go make anything happen.
Yeah, and it takes time. I don't want to be fooled that it doesn't take time. I literally have this one idea that it looks like it's going to materialize very soon. But this one idea and a few other ideas I've been working on for like maybe a year or so. And I've shopped it over to different people and told them the concept and gave them my examples and samples of these different works. And the hard thing about that is when one independent person works with another independent person, there has to be some type of compromise. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to give up your ideas to be able to coincide with someone else's, because you may not have this particular resource and that person does, and vice versa. And I was at a point where I just didn't want to be able to compromise. I was that kid in school that was cool with the person, my partner, not being not as helpful in the project, because I was like, bet, it's going to be my idea then. I'm going to kill it. And then you can just get whatever, grade you're supposed to be getting. But I do work well with others, but when it comes to ideas that I have fully fleshed out and then very intentional with every single step, it's going to be very hard for me to kind of give up that amount of like understanding. Exactly. Because I know exactly how it's going to hit. I know what Mark is supposed to do, because I've gotten examples of people saying to me before, like, no, it's not going to work. And I proved them wrong. And these are just pursuits of just like, okay, you're not wrong. That other person is not wrong because they just haven't seen it done. When I first started in photography, I started off as my older brother wanted me to take photos of him. He's a super vain person. So when he got some fake Givenchy t-shirts back at the time where Watch the Throne first came out. And that was the summer. That was the most pivotal summer in my like young adult years, because that song was a soundtrack of that summer. Every single song meant something. And every time we rode around somewhere, that was the song. That was the album that we played from top to bottom. And that had so many different like thematic like moments when we were going to the east side from the north side. From north side going to the east side, riding down a lake that has like a 90-degree incline or decline. And we're busting our asses on like scooters and skateboards and things like that. Or trying to talk to girls, or being able to figure out, man, you're hungry, I'm hungry. We got this pocket full of change. We're gonna go to McDonald's and get like 2 Big Macs and 2 McChickens, and put them things together and eat. Or we're gonna go to Brookfield Square Mall, get us 1 Chinese plate, and a lady always had like this bucket of like fortune cookies that she'll always keep out. And my job was always to distract her, or either be the person that grabbed the bucket, poured it in our book bag, and then dip off while she wasn't looking. Things like that. And during that year, my brother was like, hey, I want you to take photos of me. He bought this $1,500 camera, and he was like, I want you to kind of like just to be my personal photographer. Here in Milwaukee, that wasn't really like a thing at the time. So it was really no reference point. So we were just winging every single thing.
Before Instagram, man.
Yeah. And we were trying to like play it out and trying to work it out, and it got kind of nice. People were like, respecting the ingenuity of the idea or the creativity. And then from there, I wanted to kind of be like, hey, well, I'm starting my freshman year in college. Can I take this camera on campus and shoot some other ideas? And my brother got super offended. He's like, what? You don't want to take photos of me? This is my camera. I bought this. You don't need to be doing this, whatever. Woo, woo. You're going to be a trash photographer if you do that anyway. And I was like, whoa, all right. And to double down on that, I was dating a girl at the time, and she also told me, like, no, your brother's actually a better photographer than you. I was really hurt. So me and her broke up. I wanted to create a concept of like photos that pretty much predicated around her. I wanted to take photos of women that looked like her because she said I wasn't a good enough photographer because I never took photos of her. So I was like, bet, say no more. I'm going to just create a concept that's dealt around you, and then I'm going to pop and you're going to be jealous. That was too vain. No one's going to really like that. I might bring that further down the road, but that was not going to pop. So I just had to figure out, how can I be able to hit the most amount of people, have the biggest impact all at once without having to do as much legwork. So, yeah.
Piggybacking off of everything you just said, one question I had was, what's your inspiration? Who inspires you?
As far as an artist, or just
as an artist, or like what inspires you just like in general?
Who inspires me? I have a few different people, to be honest. Of course, Kanye West, as far as an artistic, as an artistic inspiration. I'm still looking at how he even created My Dark Twisted Fantasy. How was he able to pull the concepts from that? I'm watching videos about how he pulled in different artists from across the world, how he just kind of put himself in this little box in Hawaii and said, hey, I'm going to create this amazing piece of art, and I'm going to create the audio version of it. And on top of that, I'm going to really think about the visual aspects. I think that was literally the first of its kind throughout the whole music industry. And that's why that album is held at such a like high value, because no one else was even close to thinking about the intentions of creating an album so beautifully. Outside of that, I have photographers that I look up to, like Dawu Bay. He's a photographer in Chicago who just won the MacArthur Grant. And Jonathan Mannion. Who else? Tyler Martin, who's a black photographer. Who else? Anthony Supreme, Dre Lee Carter, so many other people. I'm inspired by just art. Yeah. As long as it's like fresh and brand new and it's not that weak Instagram photography stuff, I advocate for it all day, every day.
Awesome. Well, I want to go back, man, because Kanye West is like hands down like my biggest idol. And and it's hard to like find people that actually see that, especially about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasies.
Also want to add Pharrell Williams. Okay. Kanye and Pharrell Williams are literally, no, Pharrell might be on top, but they're the most creative human beings I've ever seen.
I think one thing about Kanye West, have you seen the Elon Musk interview with Joe Rogan?
No, I've seen half of it. That's the one he smokes weed on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they have like the same, not brain, but brain functions.
Elon Musk and
Kanye West.
Yeah.
Just because one thing that Elon Musk said was, like, when I was growing up, I just had so many thoughts and ideas, and I thought something was wrong with me as a kid. It was like I thought like I had some sort of disability, like this life shouldn't be like that. And so you get to that point where you actually channel all of those thoughts and ideas and start creating. And I see Kanye West as kind of like the same thing, because all those outlashes, everything, he would just like tweet randomly. Will just be like, it'll be amazing tweets that everyone's thinking, but no one says. But once he kind of like sat down and he, like you said, locked himself up in Hawaii, brought everybody to him. Like, this is my sanctuary. I'm going to create specifically here, was him like channeling all of those thoughts and building something.
And to also be like quite frank, like I have friends that I'm personally look up to. Like I couldn't rap a single day in my life. I couldn't be on beat for anything. And even hearing my voice right now, I'm like ill. But My best friend Von Alexander inspires me a lot because he has such a eclectic like taste of art. He loves so many different things from fashion to like visual pieces of art. But we sit down and talk about Kanye forever, man. Like he do be on some bullshit.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But he is such a creative person. Does not. I think we admire him because he does not put like a straining. Like he doesn't
There's
constrain
no
himself.
glass ceiling with him.
Exactly. And it's just so admirable because even when we think we're not putting any glass ceilings on ourselves, we are. And then the people that think that they aren't and they're so like original or they're trying to be so out of the box, honest to God, their stuff is usually the most trash. They don't really have any cool concept. The reason why he's so amazing is because there was this story that you felt a personal touch with. There's this growth of a person that you were able to kind of like see from college dropout, late registration, graduation. Those three pieces of art kind of allowed you to grow with him. You got introduced to him. You got a little bit more of a better sense of him when the late registration came out. And in graduation, you got to see this development of a person that has extreme confidence in himself now. You're able to see this person that is undoubtedly very talented and has rawness to his talent, but is still coupled with this strategic understanding of how to actually get to an audience and be able to still keep that rawness. Elon Musk, I read all of his books. I was hugely into tech. Did you know he created like a video game at the age of 11 and sold it for like millions? And literally that's what kind of like started him off to going from there to being able to come, I think, in Canada I think he moved to Canada with his brother. They developed like several different apps, fell on PayPal, went from PayPal, or no, they had another company and then went to PayPal and then sold PayPal to be able to get all these different other organizations. SpaceX was something I applied to when I was first trying to figure out what I wanted to be creatively. And yeah, I got an email back saying like, sorry, you're not a good enough applicant or whatever. I wasn't like upset. You know, when you apply for a job, you put so much energy into it. I just had that feeling like, fam, this is not going to actually transpire. But if it does, this would be dope as hell. But he's just such an amazing person. He has such a creative like outlook on the world. Even when people are like, nah, that's not going to work. That Cybercar, guarantee you that's going to be something that pops off in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. And one thing that parallels both Kanye and Elon Musk again is when they got large amount of money, they put it back into what they wanted to create.
At a huge risk at that.
At a huge risk.
They literally went broke from it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then,
like Kanye put all of his money into the Yeezy brand.
Yep.
And at first, like, yeah, he lost a lot of money.
What you talking about?
Same thing with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
He lost a lot of money, but you see, like, then you have Tesla, you have SpaceX, you have Neuralink. And then look at the Yeezy brand now compared to what it was like 3 years ago.
No one can tell them anything.
Yeah.
No one can tell those two people that,
especially branching off from what Adidas was. Like Adidas tried to save him with season 2, and after season 2, I don't have anything from season 2. I don't really remember season 2 of the Yeezy clothing line. But then once he separated from that and went back on his own, when he had his capital back up, it just took off.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're just sitting on the edge of our seats every single time that he puts something out, and it literally you can't buy it at retail price anymore.
No,
unless you're willing.
I have too many Yeezys, man. I'm Adidas all day.
Yeah, and even with Adidas, they have such a great platform as to where they're allowing like creators to be just creatives. Pharrell has so many different shoes with Adidas. Beyonce is starting to do things with Adidas. I think that platform is starting to be more geared towards the creatives. And we're starting to all see it, while Nike is, no one's going to be Nike. That's Big Brother. But they're gearing themselves more towards the storyline of the athletes and being able to curate this athlete story that we can all, even a person that sits down on like the couch and never moved a muscle in that day in their lives, they're sitting in a Nike tech suit somewhere chilling.
Skin tight, Nike Pro.
Exactly. And it's not changed their underwear in 2 days.
Nope. I think Nike is focused on innovation right now. That's what their main thing is. I ran track. I'm big into everything running. They released like 6 new models of like running shoes with unreleased tech. And like 3 of them got banned from the Olympics before they were even made. And it's just like Adidas, they're siding on the side of the creators because that's what's important. In this society, creators are important. I hate the word more than anything in the entire world.
Creators?
Influencers,
Oh, that's trash. Yeah.
they're important.
Yeah.
You put money behind them. You know what I mean? Any product's gonna move. Like Adidas was, I mean, it still is innovative, but like when Boost first came out and kind of like implementing that into like different models, yeah, it was amazing. It was great. They killed it. But I think siding on the side of the influencers at this point in time
It's
is the best. It's the best thing to do.
It's a nice chess move because it's that pawn you don't really think about. And once the game is like, developing a little bit more, that pawn now goes across the board and now becomes another queen. And it's like, boom. It's that chess move with the influencers. A lot of people use them in an incorrect way. I think like even that Fire Festival was probably, it was a great way of using it. It just didn't follow up very well. It was probably the most innovative way of ever using like influencers. But I think from there we all kind of learned the strength of Instagram, and that's the reason why I think maybe even after or during that whole process, that's when Mark Zuckerberg was like, all right, bet, let me see what I can do over here and try to like couple that with what I got going on over here, which he eventually ended up doing. So yeah.
Why don't you? Maybe jumping ahead. Why don't you like the word influencer?
Oh, because it's corny. It is so corny. People, you don't. Okay, think about it for yourself. What do you think, like, do anyone here in Milwaukee have the influence of being able to turn tides on anything? If I was to say, hey, don't go to, let me say someplace, My Fishers ever again, are you seriously not going? You might think twice about it now. You might, be a little more critical, but I have no real, like, influencers also are coupled with the cancel culture, and I don't think that's real, and that's also very stupid. So it makes like you can't make any mistakes. You also can't do anything stupid on the internet. Of course, you have to be very considerate of other people, but why can't I change? Why can't I be able to grow as a person? So that's what my mind goes to when it comes to influencers. Like, what this one person does not have all the power, nor does like this whole culture or community of people have like immense amount of power to be able to cancel one person. We have a power to be able to make a movement, to be able to do certain things, but we shouldn't use that to cancel a person. We shouldn't try to, yeah.
I agree. I hate the word influencer just because you have zero power. What are you truly influencing? Who are you influencing? And what are you trying to influence? You know what I mean? It's just like you can put yourself behind a specific product or something. That product can kill 50 people.
Yeah.
Now you're stuck with that.
That tummy tea stuff. I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
You're an influencer, you're an ambassador of a brand. You're just getting free stuff and telling us to buy it.
Yeah. And maybe getting a little kickback. They're making like, $40,000-$50,000 off of you and you're getting 500.
Yeah, but you're having to push this one photo 100,000 times by using different algorithms, or either using different hashtags, or you're trying to use different techniques to get that one photo noticed, so that you can be able to manipulate that data to be able to get more free stuff to push out to us to certainly buy from you, but using whatever hashtag or name that you have that's associated with the company. That's so weird.
It is weird, and I think it sucks though, because Instagram has changed their algorithm so many times. Like that's the only shit you see now. Like it's unfortunate. Like there's no such thing as organic growth on Instagram, like whatsoever. You can go around liking 1 million people's photos, and you don't get that bounce back like you used to. Like
it's weird.
It's weird. Like
follow for a follow.
Yeah. Like I remember, this is probably before your time. I might date myself. MySpace, PC for PC. Remember that?
No, to be honest,
picture comment for picture comment, bro.
Fam, that translated over to Facebook. I remember when I used to be on Facebook, it would be like for a confession or honest whatever.
Yeah, I remember
and I'm like,
that.
oh, that's so I cringe now because you know how Facebook does like that past stuff.
Everybody was so thirsty back then.
Oh, and I see how thirsty I was back when I was.
Yes.
And then the way I used to type, I would capitalize the first letter of each word, even though it was like not the end or beginning of a sentence. It was just like so weird. And I used to have a period. Like if I was saying, how can I help you today? It'll be a period, then a question mark. I'm like, I cringe at that now. I'm like, fam, you were so lame back then.
Or do you remember when Facebook was like, it will be like Washington Farrington is feeling X, Y, and Z.
Oh,
and now it's just like a status. You look back and it's like, what the fuck was I talking about? None of this makes any sense.
Fam. Oh my God. My Facebook is literally just family stuff because
Yeah.
I just cringe at some of the things or even the stuff that I get tagged in. I have it set I can filter who sees what I'm tagged in because there's still some crazy things that I get tagged in, or that one person that tags 100 people to their music or to their photo or to something. I'm like, fam, I don't even know you. I didn't even know that Facebooked you. Whatever the case may be. And I'm just like, that's all dead. Instagram is starting to try to do that now. I get tagged in like stories that I'm like, fam, I don't know you.
I'm not associated with this.
Exactly. Or people used to try to be like this weird association of wanting to get photos with you, being like, hey, bro, let's, take a photo together. And then they'll post on Facebook plotting or, oh, we cooking up some. Fam, no, we're not. You just said hi.
I saw you. I saw you in the club, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
I was actually talking to your sister, and you just so happened to come past, or whatever the case may be. Some weird stuff, yeah.
One thing I did want to talk to you about is just because you've done so many different projects, and there's two projects that have stood out to me the most. One of them I know. Well, one of them I want to know the backstory a little bit more on.
Okay.
The Woman Project.
Yeah, 100 Women.
Yeah, 100 Women. I don't know. Oh yeah, I even have 100 Women right there. I just said Woman Project.
And that's all good. It is all good.
The 100 Women Project. Like, where did that idea stem from?
It's actually a long-winded story. So it's actually the genesis of like my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend at the time.
That's
telling
what
me,
I thought. That's
yeah,
okay.
But she was like, "Hey, you're not a real photographer. You're not as good as your brother." It was all predicated on her because I didn't take photos of her. And I was hugely selective with taking photos. I was told as a beginning photographer, you got to take photos every single day. You got to take photos of whatever. You got to take photos of as many people as you can. I didn't feel like that. I'm like, no, I don't need to do that. I need to just make sure I hone my craft a little bit better, and I can hone it by just understanding my camera more. And I don't have to take photos of everything to understand my camera more. I just need to know what settings I'm really good at and go from there. Side note, I think people are too harper on too much of like, I need to be great at every single thing. No, focus on what you're good at and just hone on that, so you can just be really amazing at that one thing. And I wanted to make sure that I wanted to take a photo series and be able to create a photo series that was going to be impactful. At the time, a lot of my friends were just looking to just, get nice, quick money grab. So at the time, I started to get better at my photography, and my brother and his friends started, saying, okay, well, you're coming into your own. Allow us to be able to like couple together, and we'll be like a group. And Corey, you come up with the ideas, and then we execute the ideas and all that, this, that, and the other. I got tired of that, and I was telling my friends at the time, like 4 or 5 years ago, hey, I want to have a museum exhibition. I want to be in galleries. I don't want to just do photos for Instagram. I want this thing that I do to actually have a real meaning. So I kind of wanted to understand what would be the best way for me to try to get in museums. So I studied, and I tried to figure out like, okay, this photographer did this photographer did that. And they all pretty much narrowed down to culture. Photos have to have a meaning. It has to be somewhat contemporary. It has to have a pulse on the culture. And so at the time, it was more of like a women empowerment movement going on in around the country. And I think that was around the first time where International Women's Day was really becoming like really more noticeable and being put in the foreground. So I wanted to be able to couple that with the texture of the time was going on with a personal story of my own, because every single photographer has done that too. And I wanted to really commemorate my mom. So I wanted to put that movement with something that was very near and dear to me and be able to create it together. So initially I wanted to only take take photos of 50 women. And so I chose like maybe the 20 most popular women in the city, because women, it's this stereotype or this weird synergy when it comes to a photographer and like a subject. It's this moment where you think that you have to be a model, you have to be this, you have to do that, or it's just weird synergy as to where there's no trust. In certain communities throughout the country, there's no real trust between the photographer and subject. So I wanted to just kind of dismantle that by at least taking photos of women that have this somewhat of influence. Not influencers, but if they co-signed me, I know many other women would follow. And so literally I remember going and taking those photos and then posting them on Facebook and having a long caption of saying, "Hey y'all, this is what the concept of my photo series is going to be. It's going to be a project that I'm going to put out pretty soon, and I really want to take as many photos of like almost 50 women. I didn't really think many people would, really like it or really, coincide with it. So I knew I was going to have to grind really hard for it. And I posted it and I showed everyone the concepts, and I literally put my phone away and went to go work out for like an hour and a half. I go back to my phone and go on Facebook because I was like, I don't really think anyone really, really liked it. I got maybe 100 plus likes, 100 plus shares, and like maybe 60 like comments, and then maybe like 20 or 30 like DMs of women just saying like, I really like the concept of like what you want to do here, let's do it. And so I just DM'd everybody or messaged everyone and said, hey, this is the time and date. This one day I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be out here. Ask for my location, ask for whatever. And that day happened, and I literally shot from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Nonstop. My best friend Vonnie came by and got me a sandwich from like Potbelly's. I literally only had one bite of it throughout the whole entire time. Only reason why I stopped because more women came. It was maybe more than 60 women that came to the spot, all at different times. And what allowed me to be able to do all of that was being able to first have a personal relationship. So I talked to each woman and I told them like, hey, this is not for you to pose. I want to talk to you. I want to get you comfortable, and I want to be able to take a natural photo of you. So I'm going to hide the camera behind me and we're going to have a natural talk. So I did that for like about 10 minutes for each woman. I had 3 cameras. I had 2 assistants there. All 3 cameras died. My 2 assistants were like, fam, I've been working out here for like almost like 8 hours. This is a regular job. I didn't plan on spending my Saturday like this. And I had to stop it. And I had a great friend by the name of Brianna who told me, hey, maybe you should spread out the seasons. So we took photos in front of this natural vine wall on this east side of Milwaukee. And she said, Milwaukee has a very eclectic season pattern. We have the summer, we have the fall, early fall, late fall, and winter. I didn't realize that until I lived in San Francisco 2 years ago, and it was around that Thanksgiving, Christmas time, and literally looked the same as it was in the summer. There was no real season pattern going on, but the Midwest is very different. We have that, and that happened. And my friend told me, hey, let's call some of those girls back to be able to do it during different times throughout the season. So I was able to do that. So it also told more of an intrinsic story about Milwaukee, with me even deciding to use that suggestion for my friend. And from there, I got a lot of success. I was able to get publications from like NBC News, BBC, Adobe even promoted it. Yeah, Adobe had promoted it. They were actually the first publication I reached out to, and they said, yeah, we'll promote it. We'll just let you know. 2 months go past, and I'm like, hey, are we still doing it? It's like, yeah, we'll do it. And then March 1st happened, and then that was the month of Women's Month, and they promoted it. They put it on all their social medias. They put it on their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. They did like that sponsor promotion where, Facebook allows you to be able to sponsor something. So friends from outside the state were seeing it. And kind of pretty much went viral. Got a lot of like notoriety from it from even the city here in Milwaukee. So I got like 4 newspaper publications. Wow, I was on the front page of like 4 different newspapers here in the city. I was on the news and all this other stuff. Like even like UWM, I didn't go attend UWM at the time, but they were promoting like, oh, look at one of our students and all that other stuff. And that happened. But at that time, even like to be very transparent, I was thinking about quitting photography because I was like, it's cool to get notoriety, but I still got bills. I still got my family asking me, when is this really going to like really mean something to you? So I told myself I'm going to go to as many galleries as possible to try to get something to pop off so I can get more notoriety that's going to materialize in dollars. And I went to almost every magazine or every gallery here in Wisconsin. Got denied from literally almost like more than 50. And I almost gave up. So I pretty much did give up. At the end of 2017, I sold my camera, and I was like telling my professor, like, or my counselor, hey, I'm finna get ready to finish out college. Let me also get ready for my GERs. And literally into 2018, maybe the 8th day or the 11th day, I get an email from the Museum of Wisconsin Art that said, hey, we would love to be able to have your photos of the 100 Women Project be in the museum that we have. And from there, and just kind of regained that confidence and was able to go from there.
How did you feel in that process of not like getting denied, but kind of getting that notoriety from Adobe and BBC and all these very large news outlets? Like, how did that make you feel, like, personally?
It made me feel really great. It made me feel like, okay, there's something here. There's a unique story here in Milwaukee that people can thirst for, and there is a demand for it. At first, I was just a regular kid. Back to when Watch the Throne came out, we would just all chill and talk and be like, nobody really cares about Milwaukee, but we try to champion as much as possible. I'm going to be the first one to put Milwaukee on. I'm going to be doing this. Milwaukee's going to hear, somebody's going to hear something different from the city. And as the years goes on, you start to wonder, like, well, I had that confidence a year ago, but I'm still going hard next following year. I'm still kind of going hard, but I don't know. Follows and keeps on going to the point you just turn around and be like, damn, I'm an adult now. I have a kid. I can't champion Milwaukee. I got to champion this family I have. And I think it was that chase. So, yeah.
I can see that, man. It's tough. Like, it's just in general, just like hearing that story is like really, really, like, it's crazy to think about. Like, you're getting all this notoriety. People are loving everything that you created, everything that you did, and then all of a sudden it's just kind of like, well, fuck, like, I still, like, this isn't it.
I remember the very last gallery that I went to, and as I'm going in there, I'm thinking I have an in because her son went to the same high school that I went to, and I was like, oh, bet I can just mention his name, tell her like, hey, me and him used to have homeroom together or whatever the case may be. And she'd be like, okay, I'll give this kid a try. And I remember I was in the gallery and I emailed them and I said, hey, I'm going to meet you. And then they condescendingly were just like, hey, no, we deal with real art. We deal with this type of art. We deal with artists that actually have like insurance for all their art and all this other stuff. Woo, woo. And then just condescendingly walked me out the door. And I remember feeling like, man, I have a sample here. I have tons of samples that I spent my own hard-earned money on, and I would love to be able to probably have here. And I was just like, yeah, this is not going to happen. So I think I got a boost of confidence when a local gallery here allowed me to be able to have my work in there. But they were like a nice startup gallery. They were literally two black guys that were around my age that had extra money to spare. So they bought like the space and they were able to have it there. But it just really didn't allow me to feel like I was a part of a real gallery. And so from there, that's when I was like, yeah.
What were some of the reasons that they were giving you why they didn't want to put your art besides what you just stated?
And fine art, you have to have representation. So you have a curator that kind of backs you and tells the people, the galleries, your value as far as an artist. There has to also be some type of like insurance that you have to buy. So when you place your pieces of art in a gallery, that they're not responsible if it was to be broken or if it to be like snatched or whatever or be stolen. It's covered, so you will be compensated for your piece of work by an insurance company. The gallery wouldn't have to do it. And also, to be honest, it was because I was black. A lot of these galleries are white owned. And a lot of these galleries want to be able to just try to do things that are like kind of safe. So they want to be able to have spaces for them. And unfortunately, we don't have enough black-owned spaces, galleries here in the city to kind of allow our own art to kind of be commemorated and kind of loved.
How important is that, though, to the city, do you feel?
That's immensely important that young kids, young youth, black and brown, are able to kind of see their own art, to kind of see their own like pieces or people that they know that can actually physically touch, be seen, or either representation of art that looks like them. I think it goes back to the whole story of the Do the Right Thing. And when, what's his name? I forgot. Buck Wild went to the pizza gallery and he was like, hey, why is there not any black representation here? You're in a black neighborhood. Why is there not anything like that I can relate to in here? And the pizzeria guy was like, well, I own it. They were both right. And I think our mindsets will have to start changing into, you're right. I'm going to respectfully allow you to have that. That just means that I have to work much harder to have my own space. I have to make it much more pertinent that when I have an opportunity, I have to allow that to be capitalized by many other people. More people that's like me have to follow behind me.
That makes sense.
So yeah.
It's tough. It just, I don't know, man. Like having those conversations, it just fucking sucks to hear that it's just kind of like, sometimes it just feels like it's us against the world, especially whenever we're creating anything. It's always put to like the bottom. And we have, like you said, we got to work 50 times harder than everybody else. And we have to create a product, or a product just meaning like the end piece, the final piece that's 50 times better than whatever something is mediocre made by somebody else.
Yeah. And the great horrible thing about that is that in the art world, there's like curators that are like white. So unfortunately, even if you're trying to do it your own by yourself, you have to have like somewhat of a white cosign no matter the way you pivot it. And even when it comes to like Jean-Michel Basquiat, he had the cosign of Andy Warhol, and that was his person that kind of like made that catalyst. But he was dope without Andy Warhol. He's gonna continue to be dope. But it's that understanding of, okay, that's how the game is played. How can I circumvent that and make it into my own? How can I be able to change this? I don't want to be the person that complains about a certain problem. I always want to try to find solutions. Even when I was like studying engineering when I was in high school, it was always solution based. You couldn't just sit there and say, this is the problem, that's that. You have to be able to fix it. And so I made sure and make it very pertinent that like I got an offer to be artist in resident at the Milwaukee Art Museum. They gave me that great, amazing opportunity. And I asked like, hey, can I have an assistant? They say, yeah, but this artist in residency is only paying you though, Corey. So you will have to pay those people out of pocket. I said, bet, no problem. And I did such. At two different artists, be able to kind of like mentor, or I was a mentor towards during that process. So I'm like, you're sharing this opportunity with me. So you're getting this artist in residency program too. And these are the people that you can be able to meet with. These are people that you can kind of connect with and network with and go on from here. The Museum of Wisconsin Art asked me many of times, like, hey, is there anyone that's like your mentor towards that would like to be able to have a museum exhibition? And I'm telling them all the time who I'm working with. I have mentees where I pass off opportunities to get paid for my photography and pass it off to them and tell them, hey, go make this money, or you need help being able to make money. This is how I can be able to help you out. Or if you have any problems, you need models. This model you've been contacting for X amount of time, that I know her personally, I'll text her and let her know that you're looking to work with her.
Dude, I respect you, man. I respect you a lot just for that, because you don't see that. Like the mentorship, like you don't really see that. Like, I mean, I've gone through, like I have one mentor. Like, it's just like, I don't know, I would call him my mentor. He's been my manager since the last job where we worked together. But it's just kind of like, it's tough when in society it's hard to see people that look like us be successful. So when you have someone that is legit your mentor that looks exactly like you, then it's just like, well, damn, dude, like, let's do this. Let's go. Like, this is like the best, like, you can't beat that. I'll just leave it at that, because I'm going to keep saying words until it's just word vomit.
No. You're 100% right. Like, there's these 3 young girls, black and brown, and there's not many like female photographers that are out here just in the world, and especially here in Milwaukee. And I personally take a liking to them. I try to make sure I meet up with them on a constant day basis. And I'm helping them curate their project together and be able to build their project together and create a story. And then I told them at the end of this, I want to have an exhibition for you. There's going to be people that are going to be able to see your work. I'm also going to invite them to, or have a sit down meeting with them, and then a personal guest of mine that has done work with Beyonce, Pharrell. She's a Adidas creative. They have their own in-house creative team where they work with specialized photographers and things like that. This woman has also worked with Prada and Gucci, Paramoss, and all these big name brands out in New York. And I'm going to have them sit down and meet with her, and she's going to personally like review their work. I think those things are very interesting, because although me and them may be both black and brown, I go through different difficulties than women themselves. So there's only so much that I can be able to actually translate to them. But I know if I put another brown woman that has immense amount of success, they will be able to speak to them a lot differently.
Yep. And they can connect with them on a deeper level than, unfortunately they can connect with like you or I.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we just have to be, extremely understanding of that. That's just how the world works. I'm not going to be able to relate to a black woman's plight because she goes through so much more than I do. Same thing with a Latinx woman. I wouldn't be able to still be able to relate to their. It'll be goofy of me to try to make that fake relation. It's not going to work. It's not going to translate.
Another project that you did, which I'm actually excited to see, is the Men of Color Get Real about mental health.
Oh yeah, so I'm actually still working on that project. I'm actually working right now to work at a couple high schools and or middle schools to kind of like sit down and give a different perspective. I've gotten grown men that are a little bit more established, and it's kind of hard to kind of like, these men are from the ages of 19 to 36. Now I want to hit a different demographic. I want to hit young, malleable young men, and I want to see where their thought process is. But I also want to bring in an artist therapist and also a regular behavioral therapist in, and be able to help me guide like how's these questions like more applicable for them. But yeah, that project, I'm still in production. I'm looking to kind of debut it in the spring of this year because No Studios is looking for me to premiere the film there. And then maybe from there, I'll be able to also submit it into the Milwaukee Film Festival. And before that, maybe Sundance, but I have to figure out my bearings with all that because you can only premiere at one of those locations first. So No Studios will allow me to be able to premiere whenever, but film industry is way more.
What made you want to do something like this?
I so even my mindset when it came back to me wanting to be very like spiteful when I wanted to create a photo project based off my girlfriend because we didn't work out. I've had this misconception of like my own emotions. So I go back to everything always going to be dealt back to like my personal story.
Okay.
And one story that's very pivotal to me is my mom and her passing. So when I first enlisted to the Army, no, thank you. When I was in high school, she passed. And immediately afterwards, it was survival mode. So imagine yourself being thrown in 100-foot water and told to tread water. You're not able to ever really rest. So I didn't necessarily ever really grieve ever. And so maybe 2 or 3 years later, at this point in time, 2 or 3 years later after she passed, I'm in boot camp. I don't know how I got here. I mean, I'm nervous. I've thought about running away and going AWOL. Army. So I actually enlisted to the Army. Yeah.
Okay.
And at this point in time, I was somewhat this super angry kid that was like always hanging or having this like mean mug over my face, super scrawny. I don't know why I was angry because I couldn't whoop a squirrel if I wanted to, but I just kept this anger over me. And that was the best way I was able to kind of deal with society and just deal with life because that's allowed me to be able to survive. So why would I change up the way that something has allowed me to survive? And I remember when I first enlisted at the time, I was told when my mom first passed, like, hey, she has been paying the mortgage on the house. She's been paying her medical bills and the house is going to be closed. So I literally had to grab a garbage bag full of clothes and live with my friend from there. And I wasn't able to grab any photos of her. The only thing I had that kind of commemorated my mom was her obituary when we had the funeral. And so fast forward, I'm in boot camp, and that's the only thing I have. They were able to allow you to keep small mementos, but you couldn't keep anything tech. And so that was the closest thing that I was able to have, and that was the thing that was kind of pushing me through boot camp. When things were too hard or things were just like a little too heavy, that's what allowed me to kind of keep on pushing. I failed my very first PT test, and I remember telling myself, or just kind of like telling myself, like, hey, you need to be able to push through this. I wasn't able to run 2 miles under a certain time. And so I kind of tricked myself and said, if I'm able to run this 2 miles right here at the end and at the finish line, I'll be able to see my mom. And it was kind of like this unnecessary tease I kind of gave myself. And so before and after, I always kissed the obituary, folded it up, and put it in my pocket and ran. Every single thing that I did as far as like military tests, I would do that ritual. And it got to the point that 8 weeks passed and we were going towards graduation, and we just finished like a 12-mile ruck march. So beforehand, I kissed it, kind of gave me luck, went to the end, kissed it again. And at this time, we're all soaking wet because we're like drenched in our own sweat. We have hundreds of pounds of gear, and we're told like, okay, now you guys have the rest of the day off. Next time we're going to need you guys is for dinner. So lay down, rest, and rejuvenate. And they also made an emphasis of go wash your clothes immediately. They're going to smell. So that's the first thing I did. I just took everything off, put it in the washer. After it got done in the washer, I quickly moved over to the shower, to this dryer, and I decided to go lay down. As I'm laying down, probably 5 minutes, I started to realize that photo that I had is now being dried. So I rushed off my top bunk and ran to the laundromat. And I realized that was the time that the photo was in there. And I pulled out my pocket and I tried to uncrumple it, but it pretty much folded in itself to the point that if I try to unfold it, it will brittle away. Yeah. And that was the first time that I was like, I really felt something. But once again, I'm trying to keep this like this mystique about myself. I'm trying to be hard. I'm trying to not cry, because I didn't cry when my mother passed in the hospital. I didn't cry when we were at the funeral, and my family was hugely worried about me. And I just told myself I have to survive. I can't dwell on it. And so I went to my bed, and I was kind of like, I was very upset, and I was just very worried. So I kind of isolated myself from everyone else. So we're still in graduation phase. So I'm cleaning my weapon. And it's this guy from Mississippi. His name is Jeff. He's 35 years of age. He's much older. And he was prior service in the Navy, but he decided to switch over to the Army. And he said to me, he's a very spiritual man. No one known of my mom passing. I didn't even tell my high school my mom first passed. And he came up to me and said, hey, I don't want to weird you out or anything like that, but I just want to let you know, like, hey, there's a person that came to me in my dream, and I want you to know that this is weird to me, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but this person told me to tell you it is okay. You can let go whatever like hurt or whatever feelings that you have, but because it's only going to hold you back. I'm like, what are you talking about, Lee? He was like, I don't know who it is. It's a figure. It does not distinguish itself from a man or a woman. It just spoke to me. And I'm like, what is this Mississippi stuff? You need to go on somewhere, man. And so I'm sitting there thinking, because that's really fucking my head up. I'm like, damn, like I'm eating my food and I'm like looking at Lee side eye. I'm like, who the fuck told you like anything like that? And I remember laying down in my bed, and out of nowhere, I just couldn't stop crying. I couldn't even close my eyes how much I was crying. And literally, that was like my first time crying in like maybe 10 years or so, even before my mom even passed. And I couldn't stop. It was to a point that I was worried that my drill sergeant might hear me, and it was just released. And so I was like, this is not right. So every year after that, every single year on my mom's death day, I cry. And I was like, this is not cool. So I decided to go see a therapist. And the therapist kind of sat me down and kind of talked to me and just kind of guided me in this way of being able to be more in touch with myself and being able to release the emotions when I need to. And I said to myself, like, I can't be the only one going through this. So I sat down and kind of talked to my friends covertly and just kind of understood like their emotional intelligence from my own therapy sessions. And I'm like, oh shit, you're fucked up, but you don't know it. You're fucked up. Because my friends would say like these things like, oh, this girl dumped me, but I'm about to shit on her because I'm about to get my money. I'm like, that's sick. You cannot think like that. That's horrible.
It's toxic.
Exactly. And they're coming to me like, you don't know anything, man. That's how everybody think. And everyone's in the room agreeing. And I'm like, whoa, okay, let me set myself away from these guys. Maybe it's just, environmental thing. No, a lot of men think like that. We have these like repentant emotions that we're not allowing ourselves to be in touch with. And so that's what kind of really inspired the project, because essentially I'm still learning to get more in touch with my emotions and be more uh, uh, able to talk and communicate about how I feel, and to be able to just go from there. So that's where the project pretty much spawned from.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, man. I feel like it's a tough thing just for like men in general because sometimes I don't know what it is about us where we have like that toxic mentality sometimes where it's just like we always have to, you do this, well, I'm going to go do this. Like you did this to me, well, I'm going to go back and do this to you. Maybe I'm not going to do this specific thing to you. I'm just going to do this thing that's going to affect you.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that like comes from.
Honest to God, like I don't know either, but there's some other men that have very healthy ways of being able to deal with their emotions. I don't want it to be predicated as like, okay, no man knows how. There are some pretty healthy men, and it's different each time. Like I kind of thought, oh, it's because I didn't grow up with a dad, so that's the reason why I can't deal with my emotions. One of my closest friends has both parents in the house, and he don't know how to deal with his emotions. I have another friend that only has his dad in the house. His dad is very much so like involved in his life. He doesn't know how to deal with his emotions. So I'm like, there's something here is within our own selves, and we're trying to like mask it with like money, music, all these superficial things. And it's
toxic
like
masculinity, like long term. Like I grew up in a household with aunts. Like if it wasn't one aunt, it was two aunts there at the same time. My grandmother, my mom, and then my sister. So I was just surrounded by like women my entire life.
Same.
And I don't know why that's like, I feel like there's two sides of the spectrum. Like you get that hardened aspect where you don't cry, you just hold everything in. And then you have that one where it's just like, you just cry all the damn time. You're just like way too in touch with like your emotions.
Yeah.
And like it's tough trying to find like that middle ground.
Yeah, a healthy ground.
Yeah, healthy ground. And I'll say this, like I had that exact same trouble for like a super long time too, where it was kind of like I was just way too in touch with my emotions.
Yeah.
When 808s and Heartbreaks came out, goddamn,
I was way too in touch
with my emotions.
What did it for me was when Wale would put out his mixtape, and it was about just love.
More about nothing.
Oh my God, I was like, yeah, this man finally gets me. He gets me. This man knows it. He has the secret, and I'm like. He came out, I was like, yeah, I'm emotionally fucked up, mentally fucked up. Like, I'm like, damn.
I was so bad, dude. I broke up with my girlfriend and I cried about it. I don't know what dude. Like, it was just backwards, like in high school for me. Like, I just didn't get it. But I think, like, once, like, I kind of, I wouldn't say, I hate to say I removed myself from the situation. When I went to college, like, I stayed at home for, like, the first semester and second semester. I moved into the dorms. And I think it wasn't until like that second year of college where I like lived on my own and I was like responsible for every single thing that I did. I kind of like talked to myself like, hey fam, like we got to find like a border on this. Like,
you still got to function.
Yeah, because you still got to function at the end of the day. We can't get overly emotional about everything, whether that's track for me, which was like the main thing for me, just getting like, I'm working so damn hard. Like, why isn't this working? And just like not being able to control that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, women at that time or just grades, like any little thing. Yeah. And to that point, you realize, okay, this is like the healthy point. This is where it needs to be. You can't get too high.
Yeah.
You can't get too low.
Yeah.
You just got to kind of like learn through life.
Yeah. And I think at the time I was 19. So I was really going through my own personal, like emotional hurdles because I was starting to become my own man. I'm starting to grow facial hair. I'm starting to be on my own, and I'm able to like drink, and I'm coupling that with just like bad habits. And it's just like, all right, you need to like really, really get a hold on this. And I think what snapped it for me was not only the therapy sessions, because like when you're in that therapy session, it's like this, you're in this perfect eco-friendly area, and it's like, okay, these are the things that matter. This person's willing to listen to me. We go from here, this, that, and the other. And then when you step out of that, it's like, okay, now all those things you learned in that little small space, you got to now apply it to the real world, and that's where you're going to be 95% of the time in your life. Get like maybe 2% of your life inside the therapy session. And what really snapped it for me was, thank God, every single day I have family members, female family members, and also friends, female friends, that tell me like, Corey, you you're making these trend of decisions that are predicated on just your just like wild emotions. You need to calm down
Exactly.
and
That's
figure
what my mom
out.
told me.
Yeah. And you need to figure out what you want, because this girl is nothing like this other girl that you dated, and now you're feeling some type of way and you're moving on and you're just not really doing healthy things. Have some time for yourself. Have some time to be able to figure out what you want. And for the longest, I didn't know what I want. Still, sometimes to this day, I kind of don't know what I want in a healthy way. I'm just willing to just kind of like explore that nature and explore that world. And I just want to be as healthy as possible. That's one thing, because I've seen it with my mom. My mom was clinically depressed, but she never went to a therapist. That transferred over to her actual physical health not being like at her best, and that made her body deteriorate. But there's that trauma that does go from generation to generation. And my sisters that I love dearly, they have their own like situation with it. And I kind of noticed that I had it, so I had to stop it, because I'm like, I swear to God, I'm not bringing a child into this world if I'm not mentally healthy. And I also want a partner that's also going to be as mentally healthy and being able to mentally be coupled with these trials and tribulations we're going to have. And I don't want to be in a situation where we're both not like, I don't want to. There's this thing that I noticed that I did was trauma bond. There's this thing where you have a problem and I have a problem, and it coincides with one another, and we're bonding. But we're bonding only based off of that problem. Yep. We're not bonding because we have a natural bond. You like spaghetti, I like spaghetti. You eat Oreos, I eat Chips Ahoy. No, it was based off of these things that we're trying to fight, but we haven't conquered yet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, before we can ever get like serious, we both have to take on these personal, independent goals of conquering these like traumas, and then we probably might be able to see if there's a natural connection there. So it was really hard for me at that time, and being able to kind of decipher what I really wanted. That's why I asked you, like, so you got a fiance? How was that able to even happen? So yeah,
I feel like when you're in those relationships, though, that's when kind of like issues come awry. Like issues kind of like rise up, and then all of a sudden, have you seen like that meme where it's like, the guy that has the spray stuff and it like seals like everything? Have you seen like those like commercials?
No.
So it's like this guy has like a piece of tape, and there's like a big like tub of water, and like the water's spewing out like a hole,
and the
and
water,
he, like, smacks it, and it's just like that is two toxic people.
Yeah.
And the water coming out.
Yeah,
like
the toxicity.
The toxicity. And then all of a sudden, that tape that's smacking it.
Just a Band-Aid. Temporary Band-Aid that's going to probably tear and make it 10 times worse. Yeah.
Exactly. And most of the time, that Band-Aid's going to be like, well, let's just have kids.
Yeah.
Or, something like that.
And now the kid suffers, and now they have a whole new developed trauma that's
because all that pressure is just hitting that kid the entire time.
And that's what, like, even creativity tries to, like, there's sometimes creativity spawns from trauma. Yeah. Or spawns from, like,
the best art is made from trauma.
So, okay. So I was dating this woman, and we were just moving way too fast. We were literally dating for maybe a week or two, and then decided to go into a relationship. But what really predicated or expedited that was because I think she lost her dad, and she only had her mom, and I lost my mom and only had my dad. And it was this weird situation as to where I was like, we'd be a perfect pair. Our kids will be able to have one of each, and hopefully those two be able to live on and go from all that. And it just spiraled. Literally, a lot of our own insecurities coupled into the situation as to where it's the smallest things will just incite an argument. Literally, we had our very first argument about me arguing with someone else, and it wasn't with her. Yeah. Okay. And I really try to like understand my own psyche of like, why do I pair myself with women that are like that? Why do I do this to myself? This is as much as my fault as anyone else's. So when it comes to just life, I try to just make sure that like I don't put myself in these situations where I can't be in full control of. I can't be totally understanding of my own responsibilities and my own that I have to take the onus for everything I do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think with relationships, the right one just comes randomly. And it comes at a point where it's just kind of like, I'm okay with being myself and being by myself.
Okay.
And once that happens,
yeah,
then that's when they come.
Okay, so I would say this, and I would say this in complete confidence. So I was going to tell you is that I would put myself in situations where I would be in a relationship, and I would do that with a purpose because I felt like I was in a creative funk, and I need something to keep on pushing me. So each project, honestly, each project was, or many more projects were dealt because I had a relationship, and I got this from this woman, or this woman taught me this, or I learned from this situation that I had here. And I think we kind of all kind of do that maybe, but I purposely put myself because I'm like, I need something to kind of feel inspired. Art is inspiring, but it doesn't give me really any like drive or direction. But when it comes to like being in a relationship, you get to know this whole new person. You're getting to know the little small nuances that they have. I like to pay attention to like, if I'm with her, I like to pay attention. Like you like to twirl your fingers in your hair when you're trying to figure out how to tell a story. You like to be able to just kind of, you rub your hands a lot because you're nervous about being able to say something. You hate eye contact when you're about to tell something very personable, and those type of things. And those little small new nuances, I know that is true for her. It can be true for many other people too. Because even when we pay attention to ourselves, my hands sweat when I'm ever like getting too excited about something. My eye twitches whenever I'm just like hungry or I'm just like anxious about something. Those little small nuances we don't pay enough of. And I think that I love to be able to kind of capitalize on that when it comes to photography. But when it comes to the film, that's something I really want to be able to just kind of like expose and maximize off of.
Because I feel like if you paying attention to so many people, you're paying attention to their mannerisms and all of those things, you bring that over into film, you can make that film more lifelike.
Exactly.
Because you can add those. Well, I met this one person. They did this, and this, and when they were talking, or they did this, and this. Where they were just sitting, you can tell that they were anxious, or X, Y, and Z. You can implement, some of those mannerisms into people in your film.
I think the trend that's going on now when it comes to film and video shows is having it be okay to be awkward. Like exactly. Insecure is based off of so many awkward occurrences. Atlanta is based off of so many awkward occurrences. Seinfeld was based off of awkward occurrences. These nuances that we were so taboo about back in the past is now becoming like in the forefront. It is okay to be not okay. It is okay to not be 100% sure. It is okay not to be smooth all the time. And I think those like nice little patinas that we have about like ourselves as men, you have to be smooth. Women love to be able to hear a guy that has the smoothest voice. You can't have a high squeaky voice. You can't have too low of a voice that sound like you're Jeepers Creepers or something like that. But it is okay to just be yourself. It's okay to be you.
I completely agree with you. You just have to find, but the thing is like, it's great being you. And I think it's awesome being yourself all the time. But I feel like a lot of people struggle with truly finding themselves at this time, just because they look at what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
And it's not like them.
No. Couple goals, career goals, all life goals.
Yeah. So then we're just constantly comparing ourselves to this person over here, this lady over here. And then we're just kind of like, well, damn, like, where do I fit in? It's like, you fit in where you're supposed to fit in. Like, you are who you are for a reason. Embrace that and build something around it. And the moment that you do that, the happier you'll be with yourself.
Yeah. I tell a very close friend that all the time. Stop trying to be the smoothest guy in the world. That's only going to be so temporary until that person finds out you're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To that point where it's just like, oh, you're definitely not the person I thought you were.
Yeah. I'm like, you're a super emotional guy. It is okay to be super emotional. But you fighting that is only going to make it worse. You're going to look more and more weird and awkward, and people are going to be like, whoa. But if you just come off the cuff and be like, hey, fam, I'm awkward, I'm emotional, I get emotional about these particular things, then people, I think as we get older, we respect more of the upfrontness.
Yeah. Embrace it, because you know what? There's a million other people
Yeah.
who get emotional about those exact same things.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I'll wrap it up with this. What upcoming projects do you have coming this year?
I'll be confident to be able to say this. This is a project that I've been, aside from the film, I've been wanting to get into more of like an open gallery type of concept. I didn't want to be able to have my stuff, or at least my work, just enclosed in one area, because that also plays into so many other like attributes of like exclusivity, classism, and all those different things. I want to kind of like dismantle that and have my photos. I want to use wheat paste. I want to be able to use the old classic style of being able to advertise back on the East Coast of wheat paste. So wheat paste essentially is paper in this specialized type of glue where you can put it on the side of buildings and it sticks. Usually most popular, you'll see it on like construction wood boards that you'll go through down in New York or whatever the case may have you. And I want to put it on the side of buildings from the north side to the south side. And I'm going to have these photos, and on these photos are going to be these young children. And these young children are going to have small like accoutrements or illustrations drawn on them of whatever career they want to have. So if they want to be a doctor, they want to have they're going to have like those the small little hat or whatever.
The white coat and
exactly.
That stuff. Yeah.
It's going to be drawn on them. And it's going to be posted from the north side to the south side, and it's going to be a exhibition that you have to experience. So that tactic in itself is going to be able to take down the segregation that we have here in the city. If you want to see the whole entire collection, you have to go through all these different textures throughout the city, and then you're going to see and realize for yourself that these certain like nuances that the media or maybe your own friend groups try to put on, like, oh, the north side is horrible, or the south side is so horrible, it's so dangerous. No, it's not. These neighborhoods have been through so much, that these people have been through so much that people immediately cast them off. They don't look to help them out. So we're fending for our own resources. We're fending for our own understanding and knowledge, and that's all we can work with. So who are to blame? Who's to blame us when we've been asking for resources, and these resources seem abundant, but it's not abundant to us? What are we left to do with? And yeah, I'm gonna have that exhibition hopefully appear sometime this year. I don't know. It's literally gonna be a pop up, because I think it might be illegal for me to be able to do it, but I'm gonna try it out. Have it here in the city, or if I can't do it here, possibly choose another area.
Yeah.
And be able to do it there.
I think the dope thing about that is it's going to take people who have never been on the north side, the people who just think Milwaukee is where we're at down here, like downtown Milwaukee, and not the north side, the south side, and everywhere else. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think is super interesting and like really cool about that project, man.
Yeah, and it's going to be something else that adds a little bit more, a little spice and a little zest to it. But I'm currently working with those people right now about making that zest add on to it, and that's going to be what really makes it like really pop and make it more unique than just that idea by itself.
I always end with this, man. Do you have any questions for me, or do you want to speak on something that I didn't ask about, or something that we didn't cover?
Who's your favorite artist as far as like music? Okay. When it comes to visual meaning like it'd be music videos, films, or whatever. And what was the last movie you've seen?
All right, give me a second. So, artist hands down is going to be Kanye West.
Okay.
When it comes to visuals, gosh, I always forget this producer's name. The guy that created Inception and then The Dark Knight Rises. I was just talking about him today.
Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan is definitely mine when it comes to film. Last movie that I saw, like watched, or like in the movie theater.
Watched.
Dark Knight. The Dark Knight. I watched it on Friday.
That's literally my favorite movie.
Yeah, hands down.
Literally I pulled so many quotes from there. How loyal is a hungry dog is one of my favorite quotes.
I'm gonna cut you up and feed you to your pooches.
Exactly, and it's like so many great quotables, and that story just was within itself was so amazing.
Yeah, Heath Ledger was just the best Joker,
the only Joker that I recognize.
Joaquin Phoenix did an amazing job.
Oh yeah, he did.
It is a tough call. I will say that because they're two different Jokers. One's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like the original, like the real Joker, and one is just like the prelude.
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally understand that.
But they're both they're amazing. I can't say one's better than the other. To be honest with you.
I just wanted to start some. I just wanted to start some stuff. I just wanted to see if he was
man.
gonna bite.
No, I mean like original, like true Joker, Heath Ledger, hands down.
Oh, yeah.
But what Joaquin Phoenix did,
Yeah,
Can't beat
even
it.
the prior Jokers, they're still great. But
Yeah.
no.
That role was just method actors. You
Oh
put two
yeah,
method actors in a movie,
yeah,
a superhero movie, you're gonna blow it out the water.
yeah.
Christian Bale is one of the most hardcore method actors ever, and then Heath Ledger, same thing,
Yeah.
and they both embodied those roles. God, I could talk for like 5 hours about this movie. It's just fucking amazing.
No. I absolutely love it. My last movie that I've seen was Marriage Story.
Okay,
A really good movie. I thought it was gonna be super sappy, but it was really, I really love it.
Marriage Story. Oh, with Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that last week.
Oh, bet. What
Yeah.
did you think about it?
I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was gonna be super sappy.
Yeah.
As well. Once, the funniest part to me of that movie was he was like, "You just want to argue about not crap." What did he say? He was like, "No, you just want to yell about not being heard." About being heard, like you want. It's like,
Oh, he was saying some stuff. I was like,
just
I feel
oh,
that.
yeah, it's like,
I feel that.
Like you won that conversation. She should probably leave now.
Yeah, and I like how they devised the movie because usually in those situations when two people are being broken or divorced, it's always like, oh, the guy did something horrible. But it was just like even giving back. Like you didn't really necessarily hate anyone at the movie
No,
because you're like, I feel sad for both of them.
exactly.
Yeah.
You could tell that. I mean, even at the end of the movie, you could tell that they still like, like
Yeah, that little small, like that's what I mean by the nuances. Nuances
Yep.
is super important. She bent down to tie his shoe while he was holding their child. It's like if I was like, fam, I hope you kick rocks. Don't drop my
Yeah.
baby. Keep it
Exactly.
pushing.
Don't trip.
Exactly.
Yep.
But those small little nuances are so important. It allows us to know that somebody else cares.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you for doing this, dude.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.